A group of corrupt NYPD officers from the 37th Precinct, Lieutenant Ray Donlin, Detective Leo Kraske, and officers Gary Figgis, Jack Rucker, Frank Lagonda, and Joey Randone manipulate the system to earn the title of Auxiliary Transit Cop. Using this title and acquiring low-interest loans from mob-financed banks, the officers move out of the city and settle down with their families in the small town of Garrison, New Jersey, which soon becomes their haven. Then, to maintain the town's appearance of order, Lieutenant Ray hires a local hero named Freddy Heflin as the sheriff and grants him symbolic authority over the town, while he and his men run the show behind the curtains. Since he was a boy, Freddy had dreamed of becoming an NYPD officer and worked every waking moment towards achieving this goal. However, Freddy's life had changed forever the day he had jumped into a river in an act of sheer bravery to save a drowning local beauty queen named Liz. Freddy saved Liz, but the rescue cost him his hearing in one ear, leaving him medically unfit to join the force he had idolized all his life. Though the town celebrated him as a hero, Freddy quietly mourned what the moment had taken from him. So, when the opportunity came to become sheriff of Garrison, the closest he would ever get to the life he imagined, Freddy grasped it with desperate hope. Yet it does not take long for him to realize that even with the badge, he remains an outsider to the very brotherhood he once longed to join. As the years pass, Freddy performs his duties diligently, which mostly consist of directing traffic and settling minor disputes. The quiet yearning that once drove him slowly fades into resignation, and the ambitious young man he once was disappears, leaving behind a quiet, lonely figure who is easy to overlook. And Freddy spends his days watching life unfold around him from the sidelines. Then, to add insult to injury, Liz, the woman he sacrificed his future to rescue and had secretly loved for years, marries Joey Randone and settles down in the town with her new family. One night, at the local cop's bar, the Four Aces, Sheriff Freddy stands at a pinball machine while Gary, who is on an undercover assignment, and his friend from Bomb Squad, Berta trade grisly cop stories from the streets of New York and listens with a mixture of fascination and aching longing, absorbing every detail and living the moments vicariously through them until the pinball machine runs out of quarters. Then, as the sheriff runs out to get some more, Gary, who sympathizes with the sheriff's loneliness, follows him, and after a few minutes of chit-chat, advises him to head home. Gary then helps the sheriff to his car, not as one officer helping out another, but more like a cop guiding a helpless child. Then, as Freddy drives home, he's distracted by the shimmering, vibrant light of the city across the river and gets lost in thought, wondering what life would have been like for him had he made it to the other side. However, he's soon jolted back to reality when a deer jumps out of nowhere onto the dark street. Hoping to save the animal, Freddy quickly swerves, loses control of the car, and crashes his car into the bushes. Frustrated and shaken, Freddy climbs out of the wrecked vehicle and sits by the riverbank, staring out at the distant lights, still going through numerous what-ifs, while waiting for his deputy, Bill Geisler, to arrive. Meanwhile, across the river in the city, Ray's young nephew, Officer Murray Superboy Babich, leaves a party and proceeds to drive home to Garrison. However, after a few minutes of driving, a car violently slams into the side of his vehicle, forcing him to identify himself, pull out his badge, and order the driver to stop. Instead of complying with the orders, the passenger threatens the officer, who reacts quickly, shoots at the men multiple times, and kills them. Within minutes, the scene is flooded by paramedics and NYPD officers, including Ray and his crew, who rush to calm the shaken young officer and take control of the situation.
I got 4 vials of crack here and a pipe. That's it.
But as the officers begin assessing the aftermath, they make a discovery that changes everything.
Took a shot at me. I'm telling you, they took a shot at me. Stay right here with us, all right?
In my trunk in the Grand Union bag.
I heard a shot, Leo.
While Superboy begins to panic over the implications of the discovery, Ray and his men immediately focus on protecting one of their own. Jack attempts to execute their first plan to contain the situation, but the attempt quickly falls apart.
Look at that, huh? We got it.
As a violent fight breaks out between Jack and the paramedic, a panicked Superboy wanders toward the bridge, trying to clear his head. Realizing their first plan has failed, Ray quickly improvises another solution and makes a shocking announcement.
He jumped! Just hit the water and he went down.
The next morning, in Garrison, Deputy Bill checks in on Freddy and the two share breakfast.
Sheriff was chasing the speeder.
Meanwhile, news of Superboy's death spreads across the nation, which soon leads to a media frenzy. As the incident is discussed across platforms and news stations, it soon becomes apparent that there are inconsistencies in the official story and incident report, which raises suspicions within the department. Determined to uncover the truth, the head of internal affairs, Lieutenant Mo Tilden, and his partner, Detective Carson, begin interviewing officers who were present at the scene.
How can you testify that Superboy jumped off that bridge when you didn't see him jump?
Okay, now, wait a minute. I'm going to object because we went through this.
Have you ever been to Garrison, New Jersey?
He doesn't tell us what we want to know. He's going to lose his job. So do yourself a favor and stop f***ing around.
Back in Garrison, Freddy and a newly transferred deputy named Cindy sit parked along a quiet road, monitoring passing cars with a radar gun. After a couple of hours, the duo notice a speeding car and give chase.
Murray, get down.
It's Freddy's new girl.
Cover yourself.
I got the air on.
Is your license in there? Can you pull it out for me, please? This is the school zone. Yes, I'm new here, but I'm not new on the job. If we didn't pull over PD, there wouldn't be any violations in this town.
Summoned to the conversation by Ray, Freddy compliments Ray's new car while quietly signaling Cindy to stand down. Then, as Ray speeds off moments later, Freddy catches a chilling glimpse of Superboy sitting in the back seat, staring straight at him through the rear window. So they are not even trying to hide their crimes from the sheriff anymore? Later, at the sheriff's office, as Frankie looks out the window, enjoying the quiet stillness of the morning, he sees Liz picking up her kids from school across the street. Freddy stares at his first love, wondering what life would have been like with her, and if those would have been his children, had he been lucky enough to marry her. Then, as Liz drives away, Freddy notices a small toy fall off the car and slowly walks over to pick it up so that he can return it to her later. Elsewhere in town, as Ray, Jack, and Frank discuss how to contain the growing problems surrounding Superboy's case inside a local store, Ray is shocked to see his old academy classmate Mo Tilden. Ray conceals his shock well, and after informing Mo that he will voluntarily come in for the interview soon, he introduces him to his men.
I heard it was a way of life out here. Thought I'd check it out for myself.
Jackie here's coming in early for you. Tomorrow.
All right, Jackie. Mo Tilden.
Satisfied that he has successfully stirred the waters, Mo heads back toward his car. Then, as he approaches his car, he sees a piece of paper stuck to the windshield, notices the no parking sign he had violated, and becomes furious, thinking he got a ticket. But once Mo looks at the paper, he's amused to learn that it's a flyer for an upcoming town carnival organized by the fire department, and wonders what kind of world he has entered. Then, as he works out his observation, Mo notices unassuming Sheriff Freddy and proceeds to introduce himself. However, unaware that Mo is there on official capacity, the sheriff first pauses to scold a group of kids making a ruckus before turning his attention back to his visitor, who's more fascinated by the slow-paced town life.
Oh yeah, a lot of cops.
Great gig.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
If you ever want to talk about anything, it's all confidential. Nice to meet you.
At the Four Aces, as the NYPD officers hang out, Jack shares his concerns.
Freddy's my man.
That don't mean you can't trust me, Ray, with anything.
When I leave here every day, I trust you with my town.
Is Jack becoming paranoid? Elsewhere, Freddy goes to the Randone residence and returns the toy to Liz, who excitedly accepts it and thanks him profusely. Then, following Liz's invite, Freddy steps into the house momentarily and waits until she gives the doll to her daughter to speak to her. However, there, Fred finds himself facing Joey's uniformed picture hanging on the wall, and as if the picture can read his mind, the sheriff squirms uncomfortably and quickly retreats outside.
I was gonna call you. Someone's been dumping garbage bags. I don't tell Joey because then he thinks he's got to deal with it, and
I'll take care of it. It's okay. He's got the city to worry about, right?
Then, Freddy spends the afternoon going through the mysterious trash bag, finds the Donlins' phone bill inside it, and goes to speak to Ray's wife, Rose.
Well, it's just that I found her phone bill in a black garbage bag down the street. Is Ray home?
No, he's taking care of our little visitor.
Moments later, Rose admits that she's sleeping with Joey and had dumped the trash there to spook her lover and teach him a lesson, never to mess with her. Confused about what to do with such information, Freddy heads back to his car and runs into Ray, who mocks his efforts. Dismissing this, the sheriff drives back to his office, quietly outraged by Joey's actions, on behalf of Liz. Later, Freddy accompanies his deputy as he pulls over a speeding car and looks from afar as Bill checks the driver's license. As he sits in the car, Freddy watches out onto a bridge and vividly remembers the morning in which he saw Liz's car crashing into the river while sitting under the bridge quietly enjoying his lunch. Soon, Freddy is jolted out of the reverie by the screaming driver, who accuses him of wasting his time and drives by. Later, Freddy decides to tell Liz what he found out about Joey over the phone and comforts her while she reels from the news. That evening, at the Four Aces, everyone watches the news quietly and learns that both Superboy's and his victims' deaths are still causing chaos around the NYPD. Then, Joey approaches Freddy and condescendingly thanks him for rescuing his daughter's toy. Ignoring this and hoping to talk to Joey about his affair, Freddy informs Joey that he wants to talk to him. But without even acknowledging this request, Joey starts up a conversation with Gary about a baseball game and walks away. It's sad to see that the sheriff is so used to such treatment that he doesn't even seem to mind it anymore.
From risking yourself, from saving her sorry ass, you go deaf as a result.
In one ear.
Be jealous, Freddy. Let it out. I would.
Then, amidst the buzz of the bar, Ray signals for Gary to join them at his seat. And soon, accusations start to fly around.
You bought that big old house. Maybe you're trying to get out from under.
You gonna tell me you're getting by without gravy, any of you? What do you want? You want to toss me? What? You can't...
Sit down, Gary.
Then, the argument escalates, and Gary lunges at Jack. Then, a violent fight breaks out until Ray orders Gary to stand down.
Look at Tony! You see him? That was my fucking partner!
Go home!
Don't shut me out, Ray, but don't forget who it was that you came to 2 years ago to cover your ass.
Everyone in the bar remains stunned from Gary's cold words, and as the undercover officer storms out, Freddy promises to handle the matter and follows him. Later, the sheriff and Bill respond to a call at the Randone's residence and find Joey locked out and furiously demanding to be let into the house. Freddy ignores Joey's dismissal, cautiously checks on Liz's safety, and is relieved to hear that she is the one who attacked Joey, and not the other way around.
He didn't do anything. I hit him with the bottle.
Then, an exhausted Freddy goes home and passes out on the couch, once again dreaming of his dive into the river to rescue Liz. Then, Freddy woke up a couple of hours later to Bill, who frantically informed him of a fire at Gary's house and drove him there. There, as the community watches in horror, the fire department extinguishes the fire and soon discovers that Gary's girlfriend, Monica, is severely burned. Notified of the tragedy by Cindy, Gary rushes back from the city and is horrified to see his severely injured girlfriend, who had come to the house to surprise him. Before he can process this, Monica succumbs to her wounds and dies on the spot, leaving him reeling from grief. The next morning, at the sheriff's office, as the sheriff fills out the incident report, Ray comes and comforts Gary in his own way.
Look at me, Figsy. Did you call in?
I'm not on till Tuesday.
I'll call in, buy you a couple of weeks.
That afternoon, everyone gathers for Superboy's funeral, and since his body has not been recovered, his uniform is put inside the casket and transported to the graveyard honorably. Then, as the procession starts, Ray introduces Freddy to the head of the Patrolmen's Defense Association, PDA, Vincent.
You did a good job here. You did a great job. Real nice. Thank you. Was trying to get on the force for years, but he had this problem with his ear. Let's go. Call me. Freddy, my boy, that is how things happen.
There, during the funeral service, Joey and Rose steal glances at each other, which Liz notices and becomes furious at. From his seat, Ray subtly notices the exchanges, figures out what's going on, but keeps the discovery to himself. Later, the sheriff returns to his office and finds Mo and Detective Carson is waiting for him.
I didn't know they allowed classical music in Jersey.
Then, after showing pictures of Ray with known mob bosses to Freddy, Mo stresses that he and the sheriff share a duty to watch the cops, keep them in line, and, after citing that the officers all live in a town outside of his jurisdiction, asks Freddy for help. However, Freddy defends the officers and assures the lieutenant that he has everything under control.
You know, you raise your family somewhere decent. I guess that's a crime now.
Not convinced, Mo shares his suspicion that the unusually low crime rate in the town suggests that massive cover-ups are at play and advises the sheriff to help him before it's too late.
Where you find one, you find a nest. There isn't much here for you to do.
to keep your mind busy, saying, Sheriff, I got something for you to do.
The next evening, Ray throws a farewell party for Superboy, whom he plans to send away until the heat dies down.
The mayor's gonna suspend this case. I'm making it happen tomorrow.
It's my sister-in-law's kid.
A few hours into the party, Freddy arrives and questions Ray's thinking for throwing a party a day after his nephew's funeral.
That guy's had a hard-on for me for years. It's a personal thing.
I'm the sheriff. I mean, I'm supposed to know what's going on.
Later, Liz visits the sheriff at his house and thanks him for saving her life all those years ago. Then, as the duo hangs out for a few hours, Liz learns how the sheriff feels about her and sympathizes with his loneliness. Inside the party, as everyone has a fun time, a worried Rose discreetly hands Superboy a warning note, telling him that Ray is planning to kill him. Luckily, Superboy manages to read the message before it's too late, prepares himself, and approaches Ray, who's been waiting to speak to him.
You know, Ray, it's a really great thing you did. You know, I know you didn't have to do this for me.
I always liked you, Murray. Sorry it came out this way, Murray.
Superboy reacts quickly, manages to free himself from the men's grip, and flees into the nearby woods. Ray, I guess killing Superboy a second time won't be so easy. The next morning, as orchestrated by Ray, the mayor suspends the investigation into Superboy's case, which frustrates Mo to no end. Enraged by the injustice, he lashes out at everyone, including his colleagues, and begrudgingly throws out his extensive files on the officers. That evening, as the city reacts to the mayor's bold decision, at the Four Aces, Ray, Jack, and Frank approach Joey and ask him for help locating Superboy.
Mr. Humanitarian, you got something you want to say to me, Ray?
Joey profusely refuses the task and leaves to report to his shift in the city. Meanwhile, Jack pulls Freddy aside and, after detailing that he heard rumors about Gary's financial troubles, he assures him that the fire is not accidental, as first believed, and advises him to look into the matter once more.
That would be retribution, and that'll lead to God Almighty.
Later that night, the sheriff returns home and hangs out with Gary, whom he is allowed to stay with him for a few days as a result of the fire. As the men chat, Gary shares that the powerful mob bosses in the city have carefully built garrison for Ray, who helps them run their operations smoothly. He then admits that being on the force is not all it's cracked up to be and tries to assure Freddy that he's not missing out to no avail.
But how does this apply to what you were saying inside?
It applies, Freddy!
Then, Gary advises Freddy that if he ever wants to go against Ray and succeed, he shouldn't face him head-on and instead be strategic.
Okay. They got lives, Freddy. Families.
Meanwhile, in the city, while on duty, Joey gets in a fight with a violent criminal, and after a brutal, intense battle, the criminal attempts to throw the officer off the roof of a tall apartment building. Suddenly facing death, a terrified Joey barely hangs on for dear life and screams for help, while the criminal flees the area. Receiving the call, Ray, Jack, and other NYPD officers rush to the scene and run inside to find out what's going on and offer support. Ray leads the way and, after a few moments, reaches inside and sees Joey hanging from the building in desperation. Then, before the other officers catch up to him, Ray stoically walks back out, closes the door, and stalls. This is low, even for you, Ray.
In here! Joey's in trouble, Ray.
Then, as the officers eventually find their way inside, they are too late and are horrified to see Joey, who could no longer hold on, dead on the ground. Huh. Even Jack seems pretty shaken up by this incident. Back in garrison in the dead of night, the sheriff hears a subtle knock on his door, opens it, and finds the shock of his life.
I need your help. My friends tried to kill me.
Seeing Gary inside, Superboy runs for his life, forcing Gary and Freddy to run after him. But despite their best efforts, they lose him.
Why didn't get Superboy off the bridge? Bring him back here and kill him.
They got very f***ed up.
The news of Joey's death shocks the small town, and a funeral is held a few days later. At the service, Freddy sees how devastated Liz is, and his heart bleeds out for her. A few days later, Freddy approaches Ray at the bar and, after revealing that Superboy had visited him, calmly suggests that they should all go to the police station, explain the matter, and end the ordeal.
I came to tell you I found Superboy. I'd like you to come with me. I owe you that much.
Just tell me where he is, Freddy. You got him at the station?
I'm taking him in tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock.
There's nothing I can say?
Finally enraged, the next morning, Freddy heads to the city, and as he marches to internal affairs, Berta recognizes him and wonders what the small town sheriff is doing there. I guess you crossed the line one too many times, Ray.
I couldn't see the truth. Like you said, the evidence, my loyalties, they were confused. I'm doing the right thing. What's going on? What are you doing?
Listen, Sheriff, I'm really sorry to have awoken you from your slumber, but it's over.
I need to do something. I need to do this for myself.
Listen to me, you offered you a chance to be a cop, and you blew it!
Disheartened, Freddy steps out of the office, but as he heads out, he finds Moe's old files on all the officers and cases in Garrison, ready to be discarded, and steals them to study and get to the bottom of everything on his own. Later, Freddy returns to his office, and as he carefully goes through all the stolen files with his colleagues, everything starts to make sense, and he realizes that all of Moe's allegations were true.
You don't have anything either. All that stuff is illegal. You stole it.
Well, then how come Figs didn't do something about it, huh? I mean, he was Ray's right-hand man back then.
Not everything is a hexagonal conspiracy.
Seeing how complicated everything is, Cindy opts to leave Garrison and goes back to her old job in the city. Then, at the town's carnival, Jack approaches Freddy and, hinting that he knows about his visit to the city, tries to intimidate him. Later, Freddy goes to visit Liz with a toy that he won for her at the carnival. Inside the house, Freddy shares all that he learned about the NYPD officers' involvement with the mob bosses, who financed all of their house. However, Liz doesn't want to hear any of it and lashes out at the kind sheriff for trying to smear her late husband's name. Disappointed, Freddy walks out of the house and gets into his car, but finds an unpleasant surprise waiting for him.
Wait, Don. Gave you this job, Freddy. You forgot that?
Frank then demands that Freddy tell him where Superboy is, and when he fails to, he aggressively threatens him and warns him that he will come for him when he least expects it. Later, Freddy returns to his house and finds Gary's insurance check from the fire. Then, after noticing a char on the officer's bag, connects the dots in his head. Hoping to confirm his suspicions, Freddy heads to Gary's burned-down house and tries to find a clue. Gary follows Freddy to the house and admits that he set the fire to his house with the help of Berta so that he can get the insurance money, leave the town for good, and start his life anew. He then adds that he had no idea that his girlfriend was coming to visit him and assures the sheriff that he had no intention of hurting anyone.
Go on, Figsy! Go on!
Now determined more than ever, Freddy visits Rose and, after assuring her that he's the only safe option Superboy has, asks her for his location. Rose reluctantly informs the sheriff that her nephew is hiding in the local water tower. There, Freddy finds the young officer scared out of his mind, and after ordering Bill to meet him at the office, takes Superboy there. There, as Superboy whimpers in a holding cell, Bill realizes the gravity of the matter and freaks out, knowing how hard Ray will retaliate. Bill then receives a call from his pregnant wife, begging him to return home safely, and tries to assuage her. Seeing this, Freddy allows his deputy to go home, while he stays up all night, with a rifle in hand, vigilantly guarding Superboy and his plans. Meanwhile, Gary proceeds to flee the town for his much-awaited new beginning, but fails to get the sheriff and his peculiar predicament out of his mind. Knowing how out of his depth the sheriff is, and sympathizing with Freddy, who has always been kind and accommodating to him, swerves back in the middle of the road and returns. The next morning, as the sheriff proceeds to escort Superboy to his car so that he can take him to the NYPD, Frank and Jack appear out of nowhere and ambush them. Then, after overpowering Freddy and kidnapping Superboy, the men fire a shot near Freddy's good ear, leaving him completely deaf, disoriented, and screaming in agony. Determined to put a stop to the madness once and for all, despite being in complete silence, Freddy stumbles to Ray's house. However, there, the sheriff is faced with a violent gunfight with Ray and his men. Luckily, Gary arrives just in time to help out the sheriff, and the duo manages to wipe out all of the dirty NYPD officers, including their leader. In the aftermath, without even cleaning themselves up, Gary and the sheriff take Superboy to the Internal Affairs Bureau in the city. With panicked officers and the media surrounding the trio, Gary helps the sheriff navigate the crowd and pushes the officers aside until a jubilant Moe meets them and takes over. As Freddy walks away with Moe, despite knowing that he will also be implicated in numerous crimes, Gary smiles with pride as he sees the hardworking Freddy, who's always been looked over and taken advantage of, make history by taking down the seemingly untouchable corrupt system and all the officers it harbors. Luckily, Freddy recovers his hearing in his good ear soon and returns to Garrison. Then, as the investigation goes underway, Gary takes a plea deal and gives out the connection between Ray, the mob, and the PDA, which leads to numerous arrests within the NYPD. Soon, the mob bosses are implicated and are each taken down with numerous pieces of evidence against them. 3 months later, on a quiet morning in Garrison, Freddy stands by the river, gazing across at the skylines of the city. For most of his life, those towering buildings had represented the life he never got to live, the dream that never came true, and the uniform he never wore. But now, despite everything, Freddy realizes that he's finally at peace, and for the first time in decades, he no longer wonders what might have been on the other side. Instead, he turns back toward Garrison, the town he's meant to be in, and is content to remain there, quietly guarding the now calm small town. Moments later, Bill alerts the sheriff to a misdemeanor offense caught in town, and Freddy happily heads back to his duties with a renewed sense of purpose.